Hello YouTube and welcome to a new video. Today we're back at Tier Maker and we're making a tier list specifically for the new Bifrost game mode. And as you can see, I've already been quite busy and extracted all the images we need for every single unique clan lore that there is in the game. I took out the 3 starting ones from Owl because they are not available in Bifrost unless you start as the Owl clan. And we are gonna discuss which of these lores are good, which ones of these you should avoid or are not worth taking, and why are we only making this video now? Should be pretty obvious, but until now it was not possible to take the lores out of context. Every lore was part of a certain clan and a certain position in the lore tree, but the Bifrost game mode kind of switches that up. We can get any of these lores on the same clan, but also on a different clan, and we can place it in the lore tree wherever we like. This means we could have a very powerful lore that usually is at the end of the lore tree. We can place it in the first position and override a lore that is potentially not even that helpful for us in the first place. We are gonna rank them based on how useful they are. So we have 6 different tiers here. Some lores, it's only a handful of them, are completely useless in Bifrost game mode, so we're gonna put them in the bottom category. In C, in the orange tier, are gonna be the lores that are probably either just as good as the lore they would be replacing, or potentially even worse, or just so rarely useful that it's not worth taking these over any other lore. Then we're gonna have situational lores, which are good depending on the map, maybe depending on the situation. And in the A and S tier are the lores that are absolutely, very strong, if not essential. I have this clan only essential. Extra tier just for certain lores that are basically, for certain clans, almost essential to have, or if you don't have them, you are missing out. And yeah, that's how we're going to be ranking them. I have the lores sorted here by clan alphabetically, so we're just gonna go through them like that. And usually they are sorted so that the economic lores come before the military lores and the wealth lores as the third and last option. So yeah, let's jump right in. Starting out with the first lore of the Bear clan. This is Hibernation. We're quickly gonna hover over it. Non-sick clan members regenerate during winter, and well, in Bifrost, in winter is when we are forced to defend the waves, so just alone to help with the defense, this is a very strong lore. Not necessarily the strongest lore we are gonna find, but I would almost definitely take this one. It makes defending so much easier, and it's basically like a free healing lore in case you got sick or something like that. In the next winter, you get to heal up for free. The next lore we have is called Harpoons, and makes it so our fishermen increase a lot more. 30% is quite a hefty eco bonus, and usually this lore is not so good because it's so far back in the tree. But because in Conquest we can potentially get it much earlier, it becomes much better. But on the other hand, we are not guaranteed to see fish on the map, and we're not guaranteed to even bring the fisher hut with us, so that's why I would put this bonus as a situational bonus. Very helpful if you can make use of it, but useless otherwise. Next up we have Protector of the Land, our first of many lores that provide us with a source of happiness. These kind of lores are very helpful in Bifrost because, well, we are lacking happiness most of the time. So I would rate this one quite highly. We get +1 happiness for every little zone that has a military camp, and yeah, in Conquest and Bifrost we can colonize quite a few tiles, so this is definitely a strong happiness lore. Potentially even, if I would see this offered between Hibernation and the happiness, I would almost certainly go for the happiness, depending on the clan, but most often probably for the happiness. The fourth lore we have is called Shield Mastery, and allows us to forge the weapons of the shield bearers for free. Also, all our military units get 5 resistance. Overall pretty weak. we usually try to make range units in Bifrost because we have so many monsters to deal with and the melee units don't survive pretty well against them. So making shield bearers is already disincentivized, getting the tool for them helps just barely, and yeah, a little bit of defense is not worth taking this lore. The next lore we have is technically not a lore, but is only from the Bear clan. It's called Winter Festival and makes it so that during a winter you consume less food and your other production is increased. Compared to the other blessings, it's not necessarily that strong. It's not necessarily weak either, but I would almost always prefer the other two blessings first and then take Winter Festival. So I would also say that the Winter blessing is probably not worth. Definitely better than we could perhaps say situational, because it's not completely unworthy. So next up is the Boar clan, and the first lore we could get is Simple Living. Usually this overrides wood cutting or sharp axes, but we could have this in addition if we want it, or we could still place it in the first row, of course. And that's a very good lore to have in Bifrost, especially if you're playing in a team. You can have one of your teammates, basically their job be constructing barricades, constructing towers and stuff for your team, and Simple Living helps insanely with that. The next lore on offer is called Herbalism and makes it so that our menders are slightly better, not to mention this overrides medicine usually. It also increases the production for every unit that's in the same zone as the healers. You can sometimes get a little bit of bonus out of it. The fact, however, that it only increases healing by 20% and not necessarily by 50% as medicine does, I usually don't find this too powerful, especially because you then have to place the healers in the same tile as other workers, and yeah, it's overall so situational that I would even consider it not worth it. The next lore can be powerful. Legacy increases the happiness and all the production we get from an Altar of King. However, the Altar of King is not a building you usually start out with, so that already makes the lore very situational. However, if you do get access to the Altar of Kings, I would find this lore quite helpful, because it basically pays for itself, as well as providing happiness, as we've already discussed. That's very valuable. So if you have an altar, then this lore can be definitely useful. Next we have Lay of the Land. This makes it so, well, first of all, you're less likely to be attacked by the environment. That's pretty negligible, because you already need to find a way to deal with the environment anyways. The more important part of it is that we get increased production in forests, swamps, and fish tiles. So if you have a lot of these tiles, that adds up to quite a lot of production. Don't forget that you can put your markets, your healers, your smith, and everything else into these kind of tiles. So if you have access to these kind of tiles, which you're not guaranteed, it's situationally very powerful. Just like harpoons, can be a lot of production here. Our next lore is called Bartering, and just like coinage, it increases the yield of our trade routes. Don't forget that you can stack this. You can definitely put this on a different position. You could, for example, put this on the tile on the spot where shipbuilding is and have coinage and bartering, and your trade routes will produce more and more. The main important part is that, well, the neutral factions, you can trade them whatever you like and get happiness for doing so. One issue is that it doesn't increase any production of your merchants whatsoever, so that in of itself kind of makes it worse than just taking straight up coinage, except that of course you're getting happiness out of it. The second part of it is that there's not neutrals on every single map, so I would say it's not worth it, because most of the time you're not going to be able to make any use of this lore in the first place. Our next lore of the Boar clan is Handiwork, and that's like a nice early game lore to find. It makes it so your unupgraded buildings produce a bit more and cost less upkeep. That includes your barricades, that includes the towers if they're not upgraded, it includes your healers and all these things. So overall a very helpful economic lore. I wouldn't necessarily say it's as strong as some of the other ones, so this is going to be a first lore that we'll put in the A tier. And finally, the last lore of the Boar clan is Osmosis, a lore which provides happiness based on the number of zones you have. That's already great in of itself, and then sometimes you even get some extra happiness out of forests, swamps, and fishes, just like Lay of the Land. The difference here is, however, that it always provides a bonus in happiness. So if you have 9 tiles, that's 3 happiness. Not as good, obviously, as the Bear Clan lore, but we can get a lot of happiness out of it, potentially even a lot, depending on the map. So, very strong lore. Next up are the lores of the Dragon Clan. Starting out with Blood, Sweat and Tears. Lovely lore. Only does something for the Dragon Clan. It makes it so you can assign more of your thralls to your buildings. I'd say that's definitely helpful. Not maybe essential, but since it's clan only, we will put this here in clan only essential, even though it may be not absolutely needed. Similar issue here with thrall trade, only really useful if you're playing as the Dragon Clan. If you're playing as the Dragon Clan, however, you would like to have this one. It makes it so your essence decreases slower, and that's already incredibly helpful. Also makes it so you get to buy your workers for a cheaper price, so overall that's, I'd say, an essential, or if not, a very, very strong lore. Next up, however, we have a lore that every clan can use, which is Draconic Frenzy, and makes it so a unit, a military unit specifically, if it's in a tile with no other unit, it increases its damage, or it doubles its damage basically. That can be very helpful for the first or maybe even the second year defense. You just have your war chief and a tower and a few civilians, or just a war chief, and it will have double the damage. It doesn't synergize very well with the bodyguard from the tactician tree, but if you're not going for that anyways and you just kind of want to defend in the first or 2 years, then Draconic Frenzy is quite helpful. Similar to how Hibernation allows us to defend easier in the winter, I'd say that's a very helpful lore. Also makes it so you can clear out a lot faster using your war chief or any other military unit you want to use for that. Next up we have Capture, and well, that's a lore that is already kind of gimmicky, that you can capture neutral factions. We've already discussed that there's not always neutral factions on the map, so this is most of the time simply not worth it. It's not completely useless because there might be some rare circumstance where you could find Dark Elves or something, but yeah, not worth it. Finally, we have Draconic Rage, and Draconic Rage is in multiplayer definitely a super cool lore. It makes it so your Draconic units have 15% more attack power, and that part is essentially very, very good. It gives you 15% more attack damage. Don't forget that usually you have access to Weaponsmith, which is 20% attack power, and Feeling Safe, which is not Feeling Safe, Military Strategy, which can be up to 25% attack power. So in comparison with these lores, this is slightly less damage, and the capturing part of the War Chief is completely useless. So there's no other enemy clans that you're fighting, so you're never gonna convert any units into Dragonkin, so that part of the lore is useless. I would say because of that part we're gonna put it to useless. Just compare that maybe 15% attack damage might still be better than some other things you could find. I would probably avoid taking this bonus. Okay, next up we have the Eagle Clan, and the Eagle Clan also has some very situational lores, starting out with Sentinel, a lore which makes your Falconies able to basically scout for resources. Instead of that, you could just simply convert them to normal villagers and work. It also makes it so your War Chief calls a hawk in combat, which again is not really that helpful unless you also have Blood Eagle. So overall, that's a very, very situational lore. We're gonna put this in not worth. Next up, Blood Eagle is a lore that makes it so your boneyards, which are created if you kill something, that can also actually be for your other clan, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a lore that the Eagle Clan takes. If you have the Eagle Clan in your team, every clan can make boneyards, so enemy units that enter this will be blinded, and that can be helpful for defending against the waves, so it's not completely useless. And yeah, it can be quite helpful if you have an Eagle in your team. I'm gonna put this to situational. It's not very strong. I would probably still avoid this because it's, all it does is blind some units sometimes for 2 seconds, but at least it does something. The next Eagle Clan lore training field, however, is one of the stars here, and yeah, it gives us a lot of happiness. One, for just having the war chief, and even more if we have more tiles next to us that are empty. And you can specifically colonize tiles that are empty, or like colonize in such a way that you leave a lot of empty tiles. And yeah, you will always have your war chief, so you can get a lot of happiness out of this one. Think of it similar as osmosis. It allows us to have a lot of free happiness for basically doing stuff that we want to do anyways. Rapine is completely useless. This only applies when we decolonize zones and there's no enemy clans, so that's something we'll never do. Completely useless. Don't take this one. Lastly, foraging. This is also barely worth it. You get more resources from colonizing wolf dens, so that's stone and fame, fox burrows, that's gold and fame, and draugr tombs, that's iron and fame. So you get a little bit more resources. Sometimes I would also avoid putting this one on your lore tree, so I would say not worth. Okay, let's continue with the goat clan. We first off start out with, I can open it in the game once again, spare tools. Makes it so improving tools no longer costs iron. That's actually kind of helpful because on some maps you are not necessarily guaranteed to find any iron, or it could be blocked or something like that. However, you usually only want to or really care about maybe 2 or 3 tool upgrades at most, and you could definitely also make buy without. You're not even guaranteed to have the smith with you at the start, even though I would advise for it. So I'd say overall this is not necessarily worth taking, but also not necessarily the worst bonus possible. It can save you a lot of iron if you want to upgrade a lot of tools. Amenities, on the other hand, is a lore that's, if you have a goat in your team, very helpful. It only does something if you have sheepfolds, and you can only have sheepfolds if you have the goat clan in your team. The goat can place sheepfolds and the other clans can use these sheepfolds as well, so you might as well take this lore also on another clan if you are playing together with the goat clan. So I will put this in the category up here, that it only works together for, well, the clan that it's well meant for, but it's very strong if you have sheepfolds, because then you can multiply your sheep. Works quite nicely with the next lore, Industrious, which allows you to have more sheep per sheepfold. Together with amenities makes it so that you're less reliant on the map generation to give you these sheep, and the war chief can collect the sheep as well. So once you have access to the sheepfold and you have maybe enough sources of sheep, it's a good lore. It's definitely not as good as amenities that basically makes free sheep for you over time, but it is helpful in the sense that you can put sheep to work, and works once again nicely with the third lore. I replaced the icon in the tier list for wool trade, because it's the same icon we have already for the bear clan. And yeah, this allows our sheep in their sheepfold to make gold, and also to slaughter our sheep for gold, and both of these parts of the bonus are very helpful. So once again, once you have a gold clan in your team, you really would like to see this bonus. You can obviously live without it, it's not completely essential, but if you have a goat, you definitely like to have this. Food trade finally makes it so you're trading, if you're trading food, it gives you a tiny little bit more gold if the marketplace is also on the food tile. So yeah, very, very situational already, where you have to place your marketplace, you have to have the marketplace, and then you need to be trading food. And lastly, if there's your tune, which can only happen in the first world, then you can earn some more relationship. So so situational that it's definitely not worth picking up this lore over other bonuses you could grab. Next up, the Horse Clan. Horse Clan has some interesting lores, starting out with Virulence Fire. Has 2 parts to this. Forging stuff gives us fame. Usually we're not that interested in fame, but sometimes you might have an altar or you get fame bonuses, and then you could care for this. Also makes it so forging tools gives a little bit extra production. Just 5% here is not that helpful. Potentially on a clan like Ox it could be a little bit better, but overall it's a situational eco bonus that applies sometimes and makes it easier to hit our fame bonus. Next up, we have Ancestral Influence. This is almost like a game-changing lore in the sense that you get to make a second relic when you can only usually have one. You don't care so much about the only the relics not using a building slot, but you do care about that it makes it so relics are easier to forge, basically half the time. And yeah, the relics are very helpful in Bifrost. There's if you need an eco bonus in the jar, there's a military bonus in the Milliner. A lot of clans have useful relics, so yeah, very powerful lore. One of the best for sure. Maybe not as good as getting tons of free happiness, but getting an extra relic is super strong. Next we have Great Tower, a lore that is completely a joke in a multiplayer game because you can just ignore the Great Towers. But in Conquest, in Bifrost, this is super helpful because we are basically playing tower defense, and upgrading towers doesn't cost us stone, a big limiting factor on this. It just costs a lot of gold, so you can get great towers by using the defensive military path and getting free upgrades for your towers, and it helps a lot because they do more damage, but also they just last longer, they can take more hits, and that makes dealing with the later waves in a mission much more doable. So if you're struggling defensively or you have a defensive clan, then definitely pick up this lore. I would say it's an A tier lore, not quite as strong as some of the other ones. Then we have Excavation, which is basically a lore that refunds you lore. The only purpose in this lore is to make more lore, and usually it replaces mining efficiency. I would probably go against replacing mining efficiency for this lore, because mining efficiency saves you so much time mining that you can just have a lore master working for the rest of the time and probably make back the lore you would get from placing this lore here. On the other hand, getting this lore and just mining the typical 30 stone, 15 or 20 iron that you mine in a typical game will eventually refund you this lore and maybe give you 1 or 2 lores on top. So it's a slight lore generator and therefore not necessarily a bad lore. I put this in A tier just because it kind of pays for itself after a while. Just make sure not to place it too late in the lore tree. Lastly, we have Quality of Life, and here we have another great happiness lore. This one is good if you have spread out production. Depending on your clan, this can be better or worse, and better on your tiles or not, but it's similar to Osmosis. It will easily give you 2, 3, 4, 5 happiness. You can get some extra happiness out of it by putting a scout camp somewhere and upgrading it. And yeah, happiness is a big limiting factor, so this is definitely a strong lore. Okay, let's continue on with the Hound clan. The first lore we have is called Heavy Workforce and allows your unique units, the brawlers, to basically work. However, when we're playing as the Hounds clan, we don't want to be working, we want to be fighting and making resources that way. Our allies probably don't want to spend all their resources getting a brawler and then having them work, so overall this lore is not really worth it. But feel free to experiment with it and yeah, let me know in the comments if you found it to be more helpful. The other lores that Hound clan has are much more powerful, and I'm always really happy to see this one. Bloodthirst makes it so your units, when they win a fight, when they kill something, you get military experience. You will heal a little bit based on how much experience you've gotten. The waves themselves only give mediocre amounts of XP, but they still heal a little bit, and just alone for that it's a lot of healing, and overall for clearing the map purposes it's a lot of healing. So I really like this lore, makes it very helpful that you can heal mid-fight also, so it's very applicable in the final fight as well. So overall pretty strong. Living Legends, on the other hand, is only useful if you're playing as the Hound clan. Usually you probably don't care so much about having brawler arenas and you won't be fighting any animals. Also, only the Hound clan is a clan that can absorb the souls from the enemies in the first place. So if you're playing as the Hound clan, definitely pick this one up because you get a lot of free souls out of it. And yeah, if you're not playing as the Hound clan, you won't need it ever. Horde Instinct also only does something if you're playing as the Hounds, but you could live without this one. It's not necessarily essential, but it makes it so your Berserkers are stronger if you have more of them. Towards the final mission, you'll definitely want to have more of the same units, so at that point it becomes quite strong. Battle Scars, on the other hand, is similar to Rapine on Eagles. We need to decolonize zones and there's no enemies, so this one is completely useless for us. And yeah, those are already all the Hound Clan lores. So next up we have the Clan of the Kraken, and they bring some military and some wealth lores. First off, we have Endless Tide, which has 3 separate parts to it. It makes military units cheaper, that's great. It gives them extra attack power, that's great. And it makes it so warbands give, or like war camps give extra warbands, so that's also great. These are 3 things we want. The only thing I would advise with this one is don't replace Weaponsmith with it. Put it somewhere else on the lore tree, so you can have both Endless Tide and Weaponsmith. But overall, this is probably one of the strongest lores you can find in the Bifrost game mode, because it will make the final mission so much easier having this lore. Next we have Valhalla's Reinforcement. This one is only relevant if you're playing as the Clan of the Kraken, because it allows you to have 1 extra Valkyr, which is great, and it makes it so you can heal your War Chief and also the Valkyrs, not only on the tiles where you have a Norn, Höger, but also anywhere where you placed High Tide. So in that case, it's pretty solid as well. I'll place it up here together with the other clan-only lores, because it's great for that. Near the Sea Spirit, in a similar boat with the other one, only makes sense if you're playing as the Clan of the Kraken. You could technically make use of it as other clans, if you have a Kraken teammate, and the teammate spends a lot of time using their ghosts to give you High Tide on your tiles, but the opportunity cost for that is just too high. So I would only really advise the Kraken player to take this lore, and for them it's a great lore, like it's free income, both of happiness and of money. So if you're playing as the Kraken, it's another kind of essential lore basically. Knowledge from the Beyond is great if there are neutrals on the map. If there's not, then it's not so great. It makes it so your trade routes produce extra. It doesn't increase the income of your merchants, so don't replace coinage with it, it's not worth it for that. It does reveal if there are neutrals on the map, however that's a minor gimmick. And the lore bonus doesn't work for trading with your allies, so it really only works if there's neutrals. So it's a very situational lore, can be useful, but overall not that much. The next one, I didn't find the icon for this one here, Ran's Blessing, because we don't have the Happiness Blessing. We can, as the Clan of the Kraken, get access to 3 free Spectral Warriors. I don't think this is necessarily better than the other 2 blessings you could get. However, if you need the Force right away, or if you want to spend them, I guess, for your High Tide, you could make use of this one. Overall, it's okay, it's not bad. So if you're playing as the Kraken, sure, you might as well go for it at some point, but it's not like a high priority, so let's maybe go for a situational also. Next up, the Kingdom of Lion, with their first war lore's steelwork, makes it so if you build a smith, which costs you 5 iron to do, in the same tile as one of your military buildings, probably most likely the archers, you get 5% extra defense on them. You can stack this multiple times, of course, so you can either get it for multiple units or you can stack it multiple times for the same unit. It's overall not that important, like it's not that impactful having this tiny defense boost, given the opportunity cost. I mean, you're probably gonna build military camps in the same zones as your smithies anyways, but taking a lore for it and basically giving up a potential other bonus in your Bifrost run is less likely to pay off. So I would say this one is not worth it, but I mean, it's combat power, so it's not useless. Ost, on the other hand, is quite nice because both parts of this lore are very helpful for the kingdom, actually for both kingdoms even. It allows us to upgrade 1 army camp for free. That's already incredibly helpful, so you can get your first archer out earlier or something like that, but also allows you to get in total more military experience, and for that part alone it's also quite good. So it's, I'd say, like a situational lore, If you get it for nothing much better, sure, might as well go for it, but it's nothing too special. Marchfield is in a similar boat. It makes it so you spend less time forging your upgrades, which in the grand scheme of the game is really not that much time, so I would probably not take a lore just for that. However, it also makes it so you trigger the effects of the weapons more often. Of the ones, the deflect weapon top of the head could be quite relevant for it to trigger more often. However, you usually do go for ranged units, and then it's maybe more relevant to take the slowing or the double shot that hits another allied unit next to it. So it's not all too impactful. It's even weaker, I'd say, than the other one. So I would pack it here together with the steelwork. Sure, it helps your military, but probably not more than you could get from some other lore or from some other Bifrost bonus. This final bonus, I don't know how to pronounce that, but this one actually is not so bad, because it's essentially like we had with the horse, a lore that after a while pays for itself. In the normal military tree, where it's all the way here in the back, it's kind of uncomfortable to go for it. After all these lores, at that point it won't pay back for itself, but you can definitely place this one much earlier in the tree, where you get easier access to it. Or you could give it to a clear clan. Like if you find this on the Hound or the Eagle or something, it says it generates faith, but it can also generate lore for those clans. And in those scenarios, it's very, very helpful. So this is a rather good lore. I'll put it here next to the excavation, because in total, there's definitely more monsters to kill than you'll be spending time mining iron. Lastly, Miraculous Healing. Also, in theory, a very nice lore, which makes it so any of your team's churches, so it's only really relevant if you're playing with one of the kingdoms, of course, but it makes it so they heal every unit around them, and if you're playing in a team in Conquest, it can be quite helpful. On the other hand, you usually don't want to be staying at home next to the church, so it's kind of like situational in that aspect. So most of the time it's probably not worth giving up one of your other potential bonuses, potential other lores for Miraculous Healing. So overall, not quite worth it. Falls in the same category as the Menders. Okay, next we have one of my favorites, the Clan of the Lynx. They have some fantastic lores for this game mode. Starting off with Spoils of Plenty, and at first it may sound like this is only useful on this clan, but every clan can make use of this. You get essentially 2 free food buildings that are improved. These 2 standard lores, they cost 40 wood each, so that's quite affordable, and they cost less upkeep than a normal food building as well. In addition, it also allows you to improve the tools of the hunter, so you basically also get a free tool upgrade with them, so that's pretty sweet. Overall, this is a pretty good eco lore. It's mostly for food, but in that respect it really does pay off, and it's quite helpful. I think it's not quite as good as getting more lore income, so I'm gonna put it in the A tier for free food, but not as helpful as some of the other stuff. Archery Mastery, a staple of Lynx in multiplayer, probably not that impactful in an average Bifrost game. The first tracker costs I think 15 gold, so getting that one for free is alright, but overall not too impactful. You also can get other ways of generating free units in Bifrost. The second part, however, is a little bit more relevant, reducing the cost to upgrade your archery camps. This has 2 benefits. First of all, it allows you to get happiness via feeling save, and secondly, it allows you to get more damage on your trackers. So just for the damage alone, it's a potential upgrade. You can get damage out of this lore, essentially, is what I'm saying. However, you do have to spend a lot of that cost scaling your archers. But it can definitely be worth it. So let's put this here in the A tier for like a weaker military bonus. Nimble Paws, on the other hand, is one of those bonuses that if you're playing as the Clan of the Lynx, you definitely want to have access to this, because it makes your cats a million times better. Both of them get more life, they dodge, yeah, so that's basically fantastic. It's absolutely essential if you're playing as the Clan of the Lynx. Next up we have the Wild Hunt, another lore that really only the clan of the Lynx can make use of. It makes it your spirit animals get stronger, and you can summon some permanent spirit animals as well. It gets even stronger if you are lucky enough to get the double wave Oscorea bonus. At that point, this lore becomes like a crazy increase in your power, but already just at what it gives you baseline, it's definitely worth picking up if you're playing as the clan of the Lynx. I would say not quite as essential as some of these eco or as the dodging of the cats, but still very, very powerful. Lastly, we have poaching, which at face value looks like it does the same as coinage. However, it's worse than coinage because the merchants produce less grunt. So if you're just looking at this for the gold, it is giving you less value than the merchants themselves, than coinage. But you can stack them. You can have both poaching and the normal coinage lore. You can have both in theory. You're probably never going to need to buy hunting trophies in a Bifrost game because there's just so much to kill. So you really only would want this for the gold income, and I think for gold income there's technically better lores, but it's not completely useless. So let's put this somewhere here in situational together with some other gold lores that we have here already. Next we have the branches of the Clan of the Owl. These are kind of special since they're only usable for, well, their own clan, for the Owl clan basically. I don't actually know if other clans can pick these up. I didn't find them on any other clan yet, so I'm guessing that's a no. However, we're gonna go through them anyways, because some of them are quite powerful. We're starting off with this protection rune carving, which makes it so your units can get more defense. You can get up to 75 if you have like a forest and 2 lore buildings there. I guess you could potentially, with overcrowding from red, get even more value out of this, but expect between like half a point of defense or 3/4 defense, and that's alright. However, defense is not necessarily what we're looking for to scale our armies in the Bifrost run. So while it is helpful, it's probably not worth it over some economy bonus. We can put it here together with these other defensive bonuses. Then we have the Hypnotic Spores. That's probably something that's quite useful to have if you're playing in a team. If you're not playing in a team, then it's not that helpful unless there's a neutral faction on the map. So yeah, it becomes very situational. It basically allows you to friend the neutrals for free. Really only relevant in a couple of the biomes, and then only if you're lucky and they spawn. So yeah, very situational bonus to friend some neutral factions there. Then we have another very, very situational lore, Invasive Fruits, which allows you to essentially steal another lore from one of your teammates, because there's not going to be any enemy clans in the game. So if you're playing in a team, this is incredibly helpful, and at that point I'd say almost essential, because you can get some great combos. With some of the other clans there's not such a great synergy. At that point you might want to skip this. So another very situational branch, but in those situations where it pays off, definitely essential. Like if you can get field rations or city builder or some other strong lores because of this. Then we have, of course, terraforming ground, and the cool thing about this one is it's essentially free happiness, free lore income, all the things the Clan of the Owl and you as a player in general will want. And the great thing about this is that in the Bifrost run you can place this anywhere else on the lore tree. You can really override, for example, eradication and take terraforming ground and make it cheaper that way, and that makes it so much better, and that's why I will put it up here in the very strong clan only essential lores. On a similar note, we have parasitic vegetables. These can also be incredibly helpful if you're playing in a team. You place them down on your friend's town halls or some other high production tile, and all their units will produce less and you get some of their resources. So that's fantastic. But even if you're just playing on your own, it can be good because it reduces the upkeep of your own units as well if you don't have a teammate. So if you can find parasitic vegetables, they're definitely worth picking up. It's essentially like a pretty solid food bonus, so let's put them up here in the clan only essentials. Then we have one final military branch that the Clan of the Owl offers, which are the creeping vines. and it basically makes it so if you're playing with teammates, you can get attack bonus out of it. If you're not playing with teammates, you can't, because then there's no place on the map where you can put this. So it's only really helpful if you're playing in a team. If you're playing in a team, however, do pick this up because it's essentially 15% extra attack power. And yeah, we're trying to get every attack power strength as we can. So I'm like torn between useless or essential. Let's put it up here in the essential ones. Next up is the clan of the Ox, and they bring with them some very nice lores. We're starting out with City Builder, and one of the favorites for making use of the stolen lore, for the clan of the snake, or one of the reasons why the clan of the snake is so good. So this lore does one thing, and it basically multiplies your production. You need to invest a lot of gold to make this worth something. So it's not a free lore, so to speak. You need to spend 50 gold for each stone that you want to improve with this, but over the course of a year or two, it will pay back the gold because you save on the upkeep cost. If you have some production, it's definitely worth using City Builder on that tile and reduce the upkeep cost and at the same time improve the production. So it's one of the best eco lores because it basically generates you gold and any other resource. So amongst the economic lores, which so far we have simple living, amongst them it's definitely one of the best lores. It's not completely for free, so I'll put it ahead of the extra relic for sure. I think not better than the happiness from Bear Clan. Sounds about right. Military training allows you to upgrade military camps for cheaper and also reduces their upkeep, so another way to reduce your upkeep. However, it also makes it so that it only applies for the warrior training camps. It doesn't apply for any other training camp that you might want to build. The problem with that one is that the warrior is a very inefficient unit to use in Bifrost because they die to the poison attacks of the end boss as well as to the area damage of the waves, or just the overwhelming damage of the waves in general. The extra attack power it gives, however, is already great again. So it does synergies, or it does really nicely what it does. However, I don't necessarily think it's worth it picking unless you really have no other choice. Putting it here together with the other barely worth military lores that we've seen here at the bottom. Then we have the Ferocious Charge, which allows us to forge the weapons for the warriors free and also faster. So that can be kind of nice. That can even be nice on a clan where you don't necessarily want to make warriors, but you want to get value out of your war chief by using the tactician tree, like for example the Wolf clan. It does also make it so that if the warriors charge with their forged weapon, they do an extra damage. Again, I wouldn't necessarily stack too many warriors. I don't think that's the best use of your gold or your resources. Instead, I would mostly see this as a free tool for the weapons, and for that alone it's not necessarily worth it. If you're already stacking a lot of bonuses for warriors because you found some other strong bonuses for them, like free upgrades from camps or just extra damage for your warriors, then perhaps it's worth considering committing to the warriors, but overall that's very situational. I'm gonna put it here together with some of the other military situational bonuses. Unstoppable, however, is a fantastic lore. If you're playing as the clan of the Ox, you're really hoping to find this one. And the cool thing about this is that you can place it wherever you want. You can definitely put this much earlier in the tree, so you can start healing with your Torfiend much earlier in the game than you would otherwise be used to it. So you don't have to put it here in Legendary Heroes. You can get Legendary Heroes and Unstoppable, making Torfiend just absolutely strong. So yeah, if you're playing as the clan of the Ox, definitely pick this one up. Lastly, we have Warcraft, and I love seeing this one in my Bifrost games, because you just end up killing so many units usually, especially if you're playing in a team game and your job is to clear. This lore will pay for itself easily and multiple times at that, and it also gives you fame. So putting this one on a clan like Eagle or Wolf and putting it here where mining efficiency is, you will see how crazy that will snowball your game and how much faster you will expand your town because of this this one lore alone. So this is one of the strongest possible lores you can find, just because of the amount of enemies you will want to kill. I'll put it for now as the strongest one we've found so far. Okay, next we have the Clan of the Rat, and first we have their wealth lore, growth lore, healing fire. That one is kind of nice because if you have access to the shaman camp, you can also make use of this on other clans. However, obviously it's not as helpful on the other clans for some passive healing. It's mostly, I would only use this if I'm playing as the Clan of the Rat, because you can essentially overwork your eco and use the purification fire to heal them back up. And it's very, very nice for that. If you're playing as the Clan of the Rat, absolutely essential. On the other clans, probably not worth picking up. Next we have Enrollment, which makes it so wounded units cost less. This is a lore that in theory can make you a lot of savings. However, if you're playing not as the Clan of the Rat, it's almost impossible to guarantee you're gonna get any value out of this. So unless you're playing as the Clan of the Rat, yeah, this is already pretty useless. If you're playing as the Clan of the Rat, see it as an economic lore. This saves you gold. Don't override your weaponsmith with it. Definitely leave weaponsmith where it is. You're gonna need it. But if you can get it, it could be nice. It's not very strong, however. It's like barely worthless. The amount of gold you can definitely get also from another conquest Bifrost bonus or even from another lore. Pain Suppressant, on the other hand, is a fantastic lore. I really like finding this one also on other clans, because even if you're just picking this up for the final fight against the end boss, all your units after a while will get wounded, and all of them will attack faster and they will move faster, which allows you to dodge attacks. It allows you to move around the map faster, to defend some waves. You can just use this to kite enemies faster. You can, even if you're just using this for your initial 2 exploits or something to clear the map, you can get value out of this just by getting hurt on purpose and then making use of this. So this is a very strong damage lore that you can find. Damage and also like survivability because of the movement. So probably not quite as strong as some of the other military ones we found, but definitely one of the strongest ones. Blood Ties is another one of those lores that I would probably pick up just for the final fight. If it's the first mission and there's a bunch of other bonuses, I probably wouldn't pick this yet, but if I have most of the eco I need and I'm just looking to gear up for the final fight, it's something that can be helpful. Your war chief needs to sacrifice most of their health, however, so unless you have the blood weapons that allow your war chief to get health back, it's very risky doing this because you might lose your war chief in favor of healing other units. But don't underestimate the ability of healing 20 other units for the sacrifice of 1, especially in the final fight where there's so much area damage and all your units could die, or you just sacrifice your war chief to heal everyone else. So just for that final fight alone, definitely very strong, not quite as strong as some of the other ones we've seen. And the final Red Clan lore, they have so many good lores, is Overcrowding, which allows you to put 2 of the same buildings in the same zone. It doesn't work for defense towers. I don't think it works for the palisades either, but it doesn't matter because this is once again a lore that you need to see of as a multiplier to your economy. You can get the same food building twice in the same zone, upgrade them both. Same for gold buildings, etc. You can get multiple woodcutters in a single forest, and so forth. It allows you to get more value out of fish tiles because you can put multiple fishers in them and stuff like this. And yeah, it gets especially strong once you upgrade those food buildings. So on an eco clan, this is one of the strongest boosts to the eco you can find in your Bifrost run. Once again, the coolest thing about this is that you can place it anywhere on the lore tree, so you can put this in place of Eradication or some other lore that you're not necessarily gonna need anyways. So yeah, very strong boost to your economy. Next we have the Clan of the Raven with their first lore, Rangers, which I do love finding this one in Bifrost because the maps tend to be quite big and you essentially get to explore them for completely free and also speed it up a lot. So it makes your scouts no longer consume food and they can't be hurt, so you can just convert 2 scouts, scout the entire map. It helps a little bit for getting the Bifrost, because there you also need to convert some scouts and have them active for quite a while. So it's a nice lore to find. It kind of falls off at some point, because at some point you just have the whole map scouted, but it just speeds up your initial early game so much that I really like this lore, and I find it so strong I even replace sharp axes on some clans if I find rangers. So don't underestimate this value also for like a clan like the Wolf, where you just want to scout more of the map so you can kill more. It will serve its purpose. It's definitely one of the strongest lores you can find. Up there with it is the other lore that Raven Clan offers, which is Journeyman, and it gives you happiness based on how much of the map you have explored. So the two of them synergize really nicely, but it's definitely also worth just taking one or the other. Journeyman gives you, probably from all the happiness lores, the most for the least amount of effort. You're gonna be scouting the map at some point anyways, so yeah. You can get 5, 6, 7, 8 happiness depending on how many players you're playing a Bifrost run with. So it's definitely one of the best possible lures you can find and pick up for your run. Remember once again that you can, if you want to have medicine, you can also place this one early in the tree. Like you can put this one on eradication, you can put this one over defensive strategy if you don't need it, and stuff like that. Next we have gear upgrade, which gives you attack power and defense. So it's finally one of those lores that gives us both and not just one of the other, and it also does so for something that we want to do anyways. Yeah, you're always gonna have either sailors or merchants. Like you're gonna need some kind of source of gold for your game, so you basically get free damage and some defense out of it for free. So it's another one of those lores that are just fantastic overall. Again, I wouldn't override Weaponsmith with it. I'd take some other lore and get both, but it's one of those lores that it's gonna make your final fight so much easier because of the damage it adds. Then we get to money lores. First of all, we get exotic goods, which basically does the exact same thing as shipbuilding. Shipbuilding is the lore that's underneath it usually, unlocks the lighthouse, and gives your sailors extra production. We can compare it to the normal shipbuilding. Normal shipbuilding increases resource production by 25, and our exotic goods only by 20. In return, it gives us some bonuses for the trade victory, but in the Bifrost run, I don't think we're ever gonna want to spend gold on the trade victory, so I think, personally, this is a downgrade to the normal shipbuilding lore. So overall, I'd say this is completely useless. I don't really see the value. The only other value I'd say, okay, maybe I have to correct myself, because I guess you could have both exotic goods and shipbuilding. And if you're going for a strategy that relies on sailors, that's the only angle I see where this could be helpful. And actually, just for that alone, it's not useless. So in that case, it becomes extremely situational, not worth on the average clan. But I guess if you're going for sailors, and you can double up on them with this one. However, you'd much rather like to double up on your merchants, because you can find negotiators, and that one allows you to get 30% extra money from your merchants. Not only that, it allows you to buy more stuff from the market by making it cheaper. You can once again stack this with negotiation, you can stack this with coinage, you can stack this with other bonuses to your trade routes, so this can boost your merchants by a lot. Again, the normal coinage lore, we can compare it again, only increases merchants' production by 20%, so in this case it's a direct upgrade to the merchants. So yeah, it's a definite, it's one of those picks where if you see it, it's one of the best possible gold lores you can find. Even if you just override coinage with it or take it in place of coinage, it's basically an upgrade over that. So it's one of the best gold making lores, and gold is an important resource. Let's put it somewhere up here. Next up we have the Clan of the Snake, and their first lore, Rapacious Exploration, which makes it so you can heal on your own Scorched Earth. Scorched Earth is something that only the Clan of the Snake has access to, and it makes it so you can also colonize tiles that you've burned for a bit cheaper. You're mostly going to want to use this to heal your Signia up, I wouldn't necessarily think this lore is essential, but in order not to have too many categories in the tier list, I'm still gonna put it up there in the clan only essentials tier, because for every other clan it basically is useless, and I don't think it's so bad that it should be down here in the situation or something. It's definitely still a good lore to heal your units for free and get some resources while you're doing it. Next we have Stolen Lore, the lore that allows you to take one lore from each other clan, and a lot of the lores we've seen, Journeyman, City Builder, Overcrowding, Osmosis, a lot of the lores you can steal with this one are already in S tier, and this one even gives you the flexibility of taking your pick of these, essentially, or whichever one you haven't found. So this is essentially the best possible lore you can find in your Bifrost run, because it's kind of like it converts to any of these other lores that are super powerful. The next two lores are completely useless in a Bifrost run, so Under Pressure only works by attacking enemy clans' houses. There's not going to be enemy clans. Guerrilla Tactic works by killing or dying inside enemy territory. There's not going to be enemy territory, so these both are completely useless. Don't pick them up. Avoid them at all costs. Then finally we have Black Market, which is again another replacement of the coinage lore. It does exactly the same, except that you can also trade at war, which is irrelevant. So the only reason you'd want to pick this up is to stack it in addition to coinage. You can have coinage and Black Market and allow your merchants to produce a little bit more. I'd say at that point it's not really worth a pick, because you can just take the normal coinage, and instead of upgrading one of your lores to this lore, probably better to take another bonus. So it's probably not worth it. I guess it's in the same line as here the Raven Clan shipbuilding lore if you're going for sailors. Next up we have another one of my favorite clans, Clan of the Squirrel, and its first lore is also available via Stolen Lore. It's the stockpiling lore, which basically gives you passive income. Passive income in Northgard is very strong. However, the passive income of this lore is situational, because you need to have stocked food and wood. Both of these things are not very easy to come by, unless you're already doing extremely well in the game. It also makes it so food silos don't require a building slot. That's very minor bonus, but yeah, you mostly would want to pick this up for the actual like stockpiling value, basically. It can make it so in the late game you don't really have to run woodcutters anymore. I guess you can get some extra food out of it. I guess you can save some building slots and maybe get some more value out of overcrowding or something. But in most situations, picking this lore and building around it, or like saving up resources so you get value out of this, makes it so you lose tempo, and overall therefore I think it's not really worth taking so much. However, of course, there might be situations in which you can use it, and then please go ahead and do so. Then we have Cooking Mastery, a clan that of course only the Clan of the Squirrel has access to, because they're the only clan that can cook. But once again, this is one of those lores that if you find them, it's so incredibly strong, I would definitely put this in the first row. Because usually it's all the way back here, but you can just get this much earlier in the game. And it's so powerful to get these improved meals that this is an absolutely essential lore for the Clan of the Squirrel. So if you're playing as the Squirrel clan, get it. If you're not playing as the Squirrel, don't use it. I'm gonna skip Kitchen Nightmare real quick to go to Economics, because it's basically in the same boat. I guess you could use this one on a different clan as well for the extra income on your crowns, but once again, this is one of those bonuses that you want to have a Squirrel to get the extra money during meals and the extra happiness during meals. Definitely worth putting down here in place of mining efficiency, second row, the latest, because one of the strongest lores you can find. Even better probably than Cooking Mastery, because technically other clans could make use of them. Then we have Kitchen Nightmare, which makes your next War Chief free. This also means your first War Chief is free. The second part of it is that if you lose your War Chief, its cooldown will be a little bit shorter. Ideally, we don't lose a War Chief, but it happens to everyone, so The second part is not completely useless, and the first part is that we get our war chief completely for free. That saves us at minimum like 5 iron and 150 gold on most clans. On Wolf clan this bonus is definitely stronger because the Wolf chief is more expensive. Same for Thorfinn, who costs a lot more. So if you can pick this up on one of those clans, super strong. On a normal eco clan, at the very least, it's 5 iron and 150 gold, which is definitely not nothing. I would never override my weaponsmith with this lore. So the reason, or the problem I see with this lore is that to get it, you need to put it somewhere on your lore tree and then invest the lore into it, and then you get value out of it. This makes the lore a little bit harder to use. It's not completely free to get your war chief. You still have to spend a slot of your lores to get Kitchen Nightmare, and then you have to invest the lore into unlocking Kitchen Nightmare, and then you get the war chief for free. But that's at least something. So it's one of those situational bonuses, kind of like a free upgrade, a little bit better than a free upgrade, of course. But yeah, most of the time you're not gonna want to use this. Then finally we have rumor mongering. This one only works for those missions where there's neutral factions. The starting mission, the darkness mission, we have the Dune world. So there's a couple worlds where you can use this to just friend these these allied factions for free. But other than that, it does nothing. Because it's so easy in the Bifrost run to friend them anyways, you have so much time in those missions, 5 years, or like as long as you want technically, and you can just trade them a little bit, or you can just send a scout there. After a while it will be done. I don't really think it's worth giving up your entire lore just to passively increase neutral factions. Like in a free-for-all game where there's 6 factions, yeah, this is great. In the Bifrost run where there's only 1 faction at most, on most times there's none, this is basically useless. Continuing on with the Stag clan and the food preservation lore, a lore which makes it so for each food silo you have, you get extra food income. You get extra food if you upgrade the silo. Usually that's quite expensive to do unless you have also eradication, which makes it cheaper. For me personally, eradication is one of those lores that I'm very happy to override because its effect is very minor, but together with food preservation it might be worth keeping around. It's also not completely free because the food silos, they do cost 80 wood upfront cost, and they obviously cost a lot of upkeep, especially if you upgrade them. However, this passive income is very strong, and food is also very nice. You can use this on every clan to colonize, you can sustain more army having this, you can sustain more merchants having this. So it's one of those lores that's basically such a free source of income that it's never bad. It's never bad giving up one of your lores to picking this. Definitely produces more food than the Lynx lore at like a geringer, lesser cost. It's probably not quite as strong as some of these other lores we have. Let's put it together here with overcrowding because it fits very much in the same niche. Then we have the hero's emblem, which only helps you if you've previously unlocked the altar. That makes it already quite situational. However, if you have an altar already ready, it makes it so you only have to pay 5 stone instead of 15, so it saves you 10 stone, and it gives you 3 happiness instead of just the 1 that it usually produces. So you basically, for this lore, you get 10 stone and 2 happiness. It's something we probably would pick up given the situation arises, but overall it's not so impactful that I would like build my entire strategy around this. It kind of fits nicely here with Legacy. It's definitely worse than Legacy, but it still does something in the sense that it gives you happiness, so and saves you stone. Not terrible, but only useful if you have the altar. Then we have Young and Proud, another one of those lores that I'm gonna be very happy to pick up on any clan and without even thinking about it too hard, because it's essentially just free attack power. And attack power really is one of the best things you can get to defend against the waves and also to defeat the final boss, together with attack speed. because you want to colonize zones anyways, you're gonna get some value out of this easily and a lot of value out of this if you try to do so. So this is one of the strongest possible upgrades to your army. Comes in quite late, so like you need to invest a lore, you need to invest a lot of food into territories, but on a clear clan or even just on a solo like whatever goat clan, you'd still want to have this just for the extra damage. I'm putting it here together with a gear upgrade for the free military stuff. Then we have the value of Great Deeds. This is only relevant if you're playing with Stag. These other lores you can definitely make use of on the other clans as well, but value of Great Deed only is of use if you've unlocked the Hall of Skulls. I would even go so far as this lore is so good that if you have the Hall of Skulls and you don't have this, it almost doesn't make the Hall of Skulls that worth. So at that point, why do you have the Hall of Skulls in the first place? I guess it makes some fame as well for you, but this is really how you get value out of the Hall of Skulls in the first place. It makes it so your brewers, which produce happiness, also give you gold, a lot of gold at that, so it sustains the brewery quite nicely for that, and it also makes their tool upgrade for free, which is super sweet. So yeah, if you are playing as the clan of the Stag or have one in your team and you've unlocked the Hall of Skulls, definitely pick this up because then it's a great economic boost. So let's put it up here to the essential lores along the lines of amenities and yeah, the wool trade, which gives you gold as well. Then we have finally the glory of the clan, which multiplies all your fame by 30% more. That's pretty nice, but fame is usually not what's going to win us the game unless we already have an altar and we're playing as the Stag or maybe the Bear clan, because those are the two clans that scale the hardest from fame. You also get some extra income from your trade routes, but once again this is like coupled to your fame. So overall this is quite the weak quite a weak return for your investment. Just some extra fame and some extra trade gains is usually not what we're trying to get out of our lore picks in a Bifrost run. So this one is situational at best. Even then, it's probably not worth another lore. Okay, now we're continuing with the clan of, or the kingdom of the Stoat, and their first lore, which allows them to use levers also for their teammates, essentially. Levers are only accessible if you're playing as the clan of the Stoat, and they are a form of passive income. So they are incredibly strong, and it's the entire mechanic the clan revolves around. So if you're playing as the clan of Stoat and you have allies, you 100% want to have this lore, 100%, and you would probably also gladly give up one of the earlier lores just to have this. But on the other hand, if you're playing alone, if you're not playing with Stoat, this lore does nothing. So it's another one of those toss-ups where I'm not sure if I should put it in the useless category or if I should put it into absolute essential. Because of what it is, in the sense of that, like, it's so good for having it in a team, I'm gonna put it up here in the essential lores. In a similar boat, by the way, is Inland Protection. It allows it so you can upgrade your one of your forts for free into a defensive fort. It's not something you want to do early as the Stoat, by the way. You definitely want to do that later in the game. The other part of it, however, is the more important one, which allows your lords to roam around and also to go into like adjacent zones so you can clear with them. This can be quite useful on both the Lion clan, Kingdom of the Lion, and also on Stoat. However, it's probably not so strong that you'd want to pick it up early on in the game, which is when you would kind of want to clear, but then you'd have to override Weaponsmith, which is something you don't want to do, so you would then have to place it somewhere else in the tree, get there first, and then make use of the lords. At that point, it becomes kind of useful. You can also use them then for your defense against the waves. You can have like a bunch of lords roaming around, so it's definitely like a good defensive lore. Kind of similar to how we had it with Hibernation, which at this point I think I'm also gonna move down here to Draconic Frenzy, because I feel like it's in the same kind of it fits the same kind of niche, but only for the kingdoms. Then we have the Marches of Brittany, or Brittany. I don't know how strong this really is, because it's nice that you can have 4 warband that don't count, so to speak. Like, they don't consume resources, and they don't count towards your warband. Them getting a weapon upgrade is also sweet, but they're still sentries at the end of the day. You don't really want to be fighting with sentries. They are just weaker than military units overall. I guess as the clan of the Stoat you can get a lot of value out of them, but even then I would probably still prefer just to have a bunch of archers, and the archers will do a better job than these sentries. So I'll go as probably not worth it. Then we have Landlords, a lore that you almost always gonna want to have. Even more so for the first effect. It also allows you to upgrade a fort for free, but in this case to one of those economic forts, the Dominion one. And this is what you want to do in the early game. It's definitely worth putting in your first row of lore so that you can have this even faster. And yeah, then it makes it also so you get extra livability, making it easier to reach that 8 sweet spot, and also just allowing you to have 2 more workers. Or in this case, I guess, subjects that work there. So yeah, you're almost always going to want to have this. This is an essential lore for the clan to function. I mean, it works without it, but it makes it so much better to have this. So let's put it up here in the absolutely essential tier. And lastly we have Decima, and technically any clan can make use of this. It's not immediately obvious, but obviously if you're playing as one of the kingdoms, or you have a kingdom on your team, they could give you a monastery and you could make use of this. You're probably gonna want to make it on your main tile or something, so you can center your other productions around this. And yeah, you could really, I don't know, a bear clan or a clan of the horse or something could easily make use of this as well. So this is overall just like a great moneymaker. Absolutely essential for the clan of the Stoat, who has such a high gold upkeep, but really useful on any other clan that has a monastery. And monastery is one of those buildings you're almost always gonna want to start out with, because they're so essential for your kingdom clans. So this is like one of the best possible lores you can find if you have a kingdom on the team. Or I guess for some reason have a monastery, but I think you can only find them if you have a kingdom. So yeah, I'm gonna put it here together with City Builder, because I feel like it fits very nicely in the same niche. And last but not least, we have the Wolf Clan, and they have some interesting lores. I guess I have them slightly in the wrong order. Doesn't matter. We're starting out with field rations, which makes it so your military units consume less food. This is pretty nice on every single clan, because again, every clan can make use of this. There are some clans that this is especially good on, because you want to have so many military units. Probably the best one to find this one on is a Hound clan, because they like to have almost all their population in military units. I really like this on Clan of the Rat, because you can have a bunch of the shamans or other military units that you need to collect pyre and also to heal your population. So for them it's very, very good. But apart from that, it's also very good for any other clan. Your war chief doesn't usually consume food, however. So if you're only using your war chief for the first 1 or 2 years, it doesn't do anything for you. Once you have a few more military units, this becomes really strong. If you're playing in a team, you're probably gonna need to recruit a few military units, because the waves are much bigger and possibly you have to clear for your whole team. So then this lore becomes a lot stronger. But think of it just as a lore that gives you food. And we've seen quite a few other lores that gives you food, and I would put this one as very strong, so sort of kind of like here we have food silos, but I would put this here together with Spoils of Plenty, no, not Spoils of Plenty, but the lore from Lynx that gives you free food from hunting, because you do need to invest into military units for this to be good, but sooner or later you're always going to want to have military units, and then this makes you some extra food. Then we have another lore that gives you resources for killing things, and I hope you have noticed some trends, because the other ones of these I've rated quite highly. In this case, you get gold for every unit you kill. That does not work on any of the beasts in the final mission, so that's a big bummer for this kind of bonus. But if you can pick this one up early, you're going to be killing so many Draugr, giants, kobolds, all these kind of things over the course of your Bifrost run. So it's definitely going to earn you some gold. The units that come from the wave, they don't give you the full value of this. You're only going to get a few crowns here and there for them. But just for that alone, I think it's not even all too bad, because you're going to make a lot of crowns just killing stuff there. And yeah, again, if you're playing as the clear for your team, you're going to get tons and tons of crowns out of this. It's definitely worth picking up, even if in the final mission you override this one because it doesn't do anything for you. I rate this one much better than Field Rations. This is a gold lore, and it really delivers at what you want it to do. At least until the final mission. Then we have two lures. We've had the same issue with the Clan of the Snake. These only work if you decolonize a zone. Plunder when you decolonize a zone, Invader, faster decolonization. This is obviously both completely irrelevant in the context of a Bifrost run. And then we have the final lore, Veiled Threats, which makes it so your trade routes make quite a lot more, 150% more in comparison to the 100% for your normal trade routes or from the normal coinage lore. However, this lore has no boost to the merchants whatsoever, so it's definitely not worth overriding your coinage for it. And overall, I think it's not that incredibly helpful, because again, you don't want to usually use a war chief, but it's kind of like a nice safety net. In case you lose him, you don't need to spend iron again. So yeah, it's kind of along the same lines of the lores that we've already seen. Black market that allows you to kind of trade in addition to coinage. Same with here, knowledge from beyond, where kind of if there's neutrals, then it's useful. Let's actually put it up here to situationally useful, because that's exactly what it is. If there's something worth trading, it's definitely good, because you can make a lot of money from that. Yeah, and there we have it. That's all the lores rated. Let me know in the comments if you agree with this kind of listing, if you would have used some other tiers, or if you think I've forgotten something insane, or perhaps I've missed some kind of synergy that I'm not aware of. And yeah, let me know in the comments, and like and subscribe to the channel so you can follow for more Northgard videos. Thank you for watching.